Welcome back to Conversation from the Crossroads of Southern Music History and Culture with Dr. Bob Beatty. This is a conversation that I had on the 55th anniversary of the release of At Fillmore East, which was July 6, 1971. It was the subject of my book, Play All Night, Duane Allman and the Journey to Fillmore East. And I broke it down with a buddy of mine, fellow historian Jeff Kolath. Jeff's a great hang. Dig it.
My name's Bob Beatty. This is my Substack community. Long live the ABB. Conversation from the Crossroads of Southern Music History and Culture. And where all of this starts is this book, Play All Night, Duane Allman and the Journey to Fillmore East, which is what I call a biography of a sound. I do believe that as well. And that book came out in 2022, so 4 years ago this October, Jeffrey. And something I'd been working on for, close to 30 years and, on and off, most of it was listening to music and consuming music and those things. But, 4 years later, there's a whole lot of other things that kind of come clear as you think about it. But the big thing for me, I told Jeff, I was just kicking around ideas for things to do. Jeff's a great hang, as I said. Told him, I've told y'all. I've had him here before. I've been on his podcast a couple of times. We're about to do a program in Memphis, another program. Program he and I did for the launch of the book is one of the greatest things I've ever done. And just like a lot of music of the Allman Brothers, just went out into the world, never to be seen again and recorded. It's honestly some of the best conversation, I've had on
it's 6/26/71, Bob. It's really what it is.
It's forever gone. Forever gone.
It's all gone.
So we were kicking around ideas, and I said, hey man, like, it's the 55th anniversary of Fillmore East on Monday. Like, somebody ought to talk about it. Why not us? And that's exactly how Jeff responded. Then he said, but there's the game. And I said, of all sports that we can keep on the side and talk Allman Brothers, basketball is one of them. Baseball's another one, I guess. Pace of the game kind of moves slowly, but there's a lot of little things that are going on you might like. But I'm sorry, basketball, soccer, football. Excuse me.
It's like,
can't take your eyes off basketball. It's football. Excuse me. Pardon me. So 55 years ago today, the Allman Brothers Band released At Fillmore East. It was the source of the book. The book was my attempt to just understand the Allman Brothers, like what was so mind-blowing to me. And, I came to the conclusion, Jeff, you're a big part of this, like, discussion over decades. We're going back 15 plus years, of appreciating an album, right, for a work of art that it is. And I think my admiration for the record has only grown as I've been freed from the constraints of writing about it, if that makes sense. I feel the one I wanted to throw out at you, because you're like one of my governors for these things, right? We can call it one of the greatest live albums in history, one of the greatest albums in rock history, one of the greatest pieces of art of the 20th century. I would say all three of those. But, I get a lot of pushback a lot of times when I'll use the qualification, the qualifier one of, but like, why can't we call it the greatest? And I have some reasons for that, but I just want to throw that out for you. Like, what, like,
so this is, I took my children to, oldest child to camp in Georgia this weekend. So I drove home from Atlanta today. And so between listening to the incredible Mountain Jam with Widespread Panic and Dwayne Betts from last night, which if you haven't heard it yet, holy smokes. And the usual array of sports talk and re-listening to Fillmore East in preparation for this. One of the things I thought about was exactly this question. Simply because, and it hit me while listening to the silence in the songs on Fillmore East in the car today. And one of the things that I continue to love about this record, and it's a production thing, but I'm going to tie it to other stuff, is it sounds unlike any live album that I can think of because it sounds so warm and clear, but it sounds like a live record. And one of my, I don't, are you a Nugs subscriber, Bob? Okay. So Harvey and I have talked about this on our Panic podcast on Bluest Tape, how we prefer Panic audience tapes to Panic soundboards because we think you miss something in the translation. There's something missing, and you're missing the room is really what you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And soundboards are great for lots of reasons, but you miss the room. And so what Dowd did and what the band did was they perfectly produced enough of the room to give it a sound that is exactly, I'm assuming that's what they were looking for, but if it wasn't, it was pure luck. And I think that's one of the things that makes it the greatest, because I was reading your Substack and thinking about, how the band was proud of the fact they didn't do overdubs, they didn't do re-records, they just played, they played a show or multiple shows, but culled from 3 shows, I guess. And that it just struck me as that's so true, because when you think about the other sort of culturally live records that get put up there on the Mount Rushmore live records, MC5 Kick Out the Jams, which is incredibly important. However, it's incredibly overdubbed. And, Kiss Alive, the first one, also gets put up there as this document too. But the band readily admits that the only thing that's actually live on that record is the crowd noise.
Is the audience.
It's like everything else they just went and redid, which why you would admit that as a band member. And so all these other records that get put up there on sort of this Mount Rushmore or this totem pole or whatever of live records, the Allmans one, and even Live Dead to some extent, which I certainly put on there, it surpasses all the others because, and I'm going to use a word which everybody gets sick about me using when I talk about this stuff, the intentionality behind every single piece of it. And you do such a good job in your book about that, and I've talked about it since, is that it deserves all the praise that we give it and have given it and will continue to give it, because of it wasn't just this flash in the pan thing. There was so much thought that went into it and so much care and so much love, which still boggles the mind why G.C. Carter was even led in the state of New York. But that's the last time I'm going to say that.
Let's Juicy's one I love. I love to talk about that one. I totally agree. And you're the one who introduced, why not King Curtis? And I did I did a whole thread on Substack about, it looked like King Curtis had finished with Aretha at Fillmore West and could have been back to New York in time to have played with Wayne. And
it was the weekend before.
But other than that, I can go back to the sound. Like, I had someone one time on Facebook just rip me because my comment, and I stand by this, right, is Dowd's biggest contribution to At Fillmore East, and I maybe added a qualifier now, perhaps, is the note perfect Liz Reed. But if Dowd wasn't there, we wouldn't have that glorious piece of music, which I've listened to my share of Liz Reed's over the years. Good quality, shit quality, everything else, all eras of the band, but certainly that band. That's the best version.
Yes.
By far. The one that kind of comes close to, actually, 2 of them is 9/16/71 Warehouse and 9/19/71 Stony Brook. Those 2 also are very, very, very good. But, that is Mozart, right? That is capturing Beethoven. That is capturing something great with that one song. But the point taken is, as a producer, right, your role is somewhat limited in with a live band, and certainly a live band that you've been working with for a year. The songs have been crafted and honed, and he doesn't need to be there to say this or that necessarily. I got this quote I've used, I've got this body of quotes that go out into the world twice a day for 4 years now, whatever. And there's one from Butch talking about the fact that it was Dowd, and it's the only time I've ever seen this. He had microphones pointed at the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you totally. I've stood in the Beacon Theater, I've stood in the Fox Theater, some really great sounding rooms, the Ryman. The feel of the audience and the room is a
Mm-hmm.
big part of that record. It is, even for my half-deaf ass with tinnitus, it still just sounds brilliant. And then I think, like you said, the execution, like what's so cool is so much of the record was Saturday, right? The last day after they'd had,
Mm-hmm.
basically warmed up. But you can feel, if I recall correctly, they talked after the Saturday early show and they're like, you got the record. Don't just, and then you can tell that second show, that's where the whipping post is from.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe the Hotlanta, certainly the Stormy Monday and the Mountain Jam, like that whole suite at the end, man, it was like you could feel the weight come off of them that they had, like you said, they knew what they were trying to do. They went in and accomplished it. And I'll say, Jeff, like those performances are fantastic, but you can listen to anything from that spring and much of that summer, and it's the same, I find, super high, intense level. It dips a little bit coming out of that record. And then as the drugs take hold over the summer, I understand there too. But, when you get from those January shows forward, at what little we have from February, but all of that stuff, that much of that could have been swapped in and out,
It
same stuff.
Yeah, and you're previewing some of the topics that I want to talk about when we get together in September. But you're correct in that the band was never better leading up to the Fillmore, and then that glorious warehouse show the next weekend, and then it's even that Minneapolis show 2 weeks after is still great. And then the band takes a break, and then they resurface in May, and there's some hot playing in May. I was thinking, this is again another thing I thought about today, is like today's the release date, and this is when they were stuck in Atlantic City, right, playing
2 like 30-minute sets, 5 30-minute sets a day. Yes,
It's
that's
like,
exactly.
hey,
Yeah, they were.
we got this record that came out today. If you got a chance, come by it after you watch The Diving Horse.
Yes, that's
It's just baffling, but again, it's just rock and roll in the 70s, as
about, by the way, speaking of, we can just say about as rock and roll in the 70s as you can possibly get. Like this is, this is just put on a show where you're going to put on a show, and then take the money where you can. And remember, these guys grew up in Daytona Beach, and Butch Dickey was on the World of Mirth Carnival show.
So
interesting.
You were talking about the band, knowing what they needed to do each night, having listening to the tapes and such. So there's another Fillmore East there's a lot of Fillmore live records, but there's a Fillmore East live record that's recorded 2 months after the Allmans are there, and it gets released 4 months after Fillmore East, and that's Humble Pie performance Rockin' at the Fillmore. And so if you look at that, so if you go to, I just went to Discogs because I was curious, because they put out a complete, thing for all 4 sets. They played the same song every set, except for they played Rolling Stone, The Late Show each night. But otherwise, it was the same 5 songs, 4 sets over 2 days. And what's really interesting to me is, 4 Day Creep, Stone Cold, I think it was Stone Cold Fever's on it. Hallelujah, I Love Her So. But there's like 4 songs or 6 songs that equal a really good, tight 1 LP live record. That if you had that, you'd be like, man, that was a really good record. Instead, they went the double LP route, and is the opposite of what happened with the Allmans, which is that the second LP is with I can't remember, but one of the songs is I Walk on Gilded Splinters, and then Rolling Stone is the other one. And it's just 45 minutes of just fluff. And it's kind of like, so to me, basically, that's a long way of saying they were clearly inspired by what the Allmans had done to record at the Fillmore, just like a lot of bands did. But for that record to come out after the fact, and I would be willing to bet clearly influenced by the Allmans doing the double LP thing and putting these extended jams. But it's like, guys, you are not an extended jam band.
Yeah.
I love Stevie Marriott. Frampton is on that record, and it's an enjoyable record, but it got panned by the critics. It got slammed. Even when you listen to it now, it's still like, why are we doing a 22-minute version of Gilded Splinters? You guys can't do this. Like,
Yeah, they can't sustain the idea.
No, you're not capable of doing this. And so you compare that to, again, Whipping Post, coming in at 23 minutes or whatever, and it's like it's a completely complete piece of music.
Yep.
And that's, again, it's just like what separates them so far from all these other bands that were trying to do this stuff at that time is like, again, it's a complete idea. It starts here and it ends here. It's just it's perfect.
It's, I've used this term before. I think I tried to use it in the book and I had to pull it out because it just didn't work, right? But it was like a typically great night and a typically great night. Like it was like it's just and I've listened for that, intentionally. What I find, you mentioned the releasing the full set when they released the full Fillmore East in 2014. At first I was kind of like, I remember when I got I think I got the tape, the 313 tape that had the One Way Out on it. And I remember going, ooh, oof.
Yeah, it's rough.
Like,
really
man,
rough.
my heroes are falling here. And so I wasn't super excited about it. And then I grew to be, for any obvious any number of reasons. One of the things that always strikes me though is, as much as I love the jams, is how damn good they are at the beginning of every set. They come out firing with like 4 songs, all of them about 4 minutes long, blues, hard going, Dwayne on slide. And when you can listen to the 4 different versions, I think there's 3 versions of Statesboro and like 4 have Done Somebody Wrong, The Trouble No More that ends up on Eat a Peach. But, like you can hear it. Is that game?
Sorry. Yeah. Jen's yelling at the TV. Belgium scored again.
Okay. All right. Looks like Ted Dexter scored another. Okay. Well, I mean, it's gonna happen. They're really good. Like they were just kicking our butts in the first half. Like I was like, okay. So thank you for the update. There. But in the execution, I think is the point, right? Like this was something else I had to think about. When you compare the Allman Brothers to Grateful Dead, for example, the one band everybody compares them to. And I admit, rightfully so, with no saying anybody's better or worse, right? They came first, and they were a mile. The set list thing, right, looks really glaring. The Allman Brothers have one set list in 1971. Basically, they play all summer. Every time you get a Dead tape of any era, it's this, it's just all kinds of stuff. And I've looked a little bit into this, Jeff, and I really do think that was the Dead's thing, and it was not the thing of really anybody else to play these super eclectic set lists or varying set lists. You went out, you toured with a set. That was what you did. And that was 71 for the Allman Brothers, right? Like, get this set ready to go, rehearse it. We know the best way to rehearse is to play live because we're going to record this record. Go in and record the record. All right, we like that record. Let's keep playing the set, and then the record comes out. Well, now we're going to go out and play our songs,
So what do you think accounts for like the Fillmore shows, and then you've got 319 and 919. 319, 916, and 91971 is sort of the 3 outliers. Whereas everything else is sort of this tight, no greater than 75-minute-ish set. Whereas you get later, especially after when the record comes out, I mean, there's nothing out there of length in July 7/24, I guess, but there's really nothing
No,
lengthy in August, September, except
till
for
you get
9/16 in
to the
9/19.
warehouse, and then
Yeah,
you
and
get
then
to
after
Stony
that,
Brook.
it's kind of like the last good show, 10/15/71. There's a little bit more of that, but the sets are shrinking. And is that because there were more package tours? Is that because that's when they were doing ZZ Top and Willie stuff like they did at Memphis? Or what is that? Like, what accounts for some of these longer songs, which are on the record, getting lopped off?
Well, what's lopped off? Nothing's lopped off.
Well, they're not playing whipping post. I mean, again,
No,
is there whipping post beyond 7/20? Well, sorry, there's the Montreal show, 9/30.
I think that on the Boston Common show,
Okay.
we're playing Whipping Post, and no, the set was basically Fillmore East plus like Trouble No More or Don't Keep Me Wondering, one of the other blues songs, and then if they had time, Stormy Monday, and then like on the second on Stony Brook 9/19, there is I don't think a Whipping Post,
Mm-mm.
but there is, and nor is there a Mountain Jam, and I just imagine that's a recording tape issue. I just, like you look at that set and you're like, there's no way they didn't play those two songs to that crowd.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's the case. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. And as a fan, it's a little, it gets a little frustrating, me and my love of dreams.
Mhm.
So here's one for you. Let me throw one out at you. So there's everybody knows the famous whipping post. We had a little number from our first album, Barry Starts Rock. There are 5 people who yell out whipping post. The third guy is the guy everybody hears.
Oh,
There
okay.
are 5 people, but get this. And I've only reached this is, talk about a gift that keeps on giving, right? A record that keeps on giving.
Hmm.
There are 2 people who yell out dreams. I am
Really?
not shitting you. I am not shitting you. Listen closely to the set, to the room. 5 people yell out whipping post. The dude who yells it out, whipping post, that's
Yeah.
number 3.
All right. I'm writing
The
this down and I'm
the
going to go
other
listen
thing
with my headphones.
I want you to hear is at the end of Mountain Jam.
Hmm.
So, there that whole thing roars, thunders to an ending, Butch on the Temp,
Hmm.
everything going nuts. Barry Oakley, Dickie Betts, Butch Trucks, Jay Johnny Johnson, Greg Allman, I'm Dwayne Allman, thank you. If you listen, that crowd, there are still people screaming, more, more.
Yeah.
It's like 3:00 in the morning. They've been evacuated for a bomb threat. They've just been tied to the whipping post and then taken that wonderful journey down Mountain Jam. And they are still screaming for more. Can you imagine being that band and walking off that stage? And that's
Pretty incredible.
this is their moment of triumph,
Yeah.
you know?
That's when the band gives the old, we're out of stuff to play.
Like back in the day when an encore was not a perfunctory act.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as a like I don't, nostalgia is a hell of a drug. And you and I work in history, and it's a dangerous drug, nostalgia. But like I've been at shows where performers have come back and earned encores. I remember that feeling in the audience, and it was incredible.
Yeah. My favorite is still, we used to see these guys, these great musicians from the Twin Cities, Dean McGraw and Peter Ostrushko, and they would play seated acoustic stuff, but like melt your face kind of acoustic stuff. And they'd finish, and Peter would always, he said it every time we said, it's like, we're going to come back. We know we're going to come back. So we're just going to stay here and just play another song.
Honestly, I just wish more artists would stand there and do that. Like, we're
Yeah.
not going to even play with this anymore. There's no reason. We're going to play another song. Let's just skip the thing. TTB, they get all 12 of them off the stage. And all 12 are off the stage for maybe a minute and 15 seconds.
Yeah. It's not even enough to have it's
Catch,
not enough to have a sip of something or a hit of something, but it's not.
to catch your breath, right?
Yeah. So, 50 upon its release, obviously it goes, gold in October, sells 500,000. Has it ever what is the total number that it sold to date?
Like,
Do
did
we
it
know?
ever hit platinum?
Did it ever hit platinum status?
Don't know.
Don't mean to
Look that
put you on
up.
the spot, but just out of
No,
curiosity.
RIAA. Let's just see. You know, with with the number of different versions I've bought.
Yes. Yeah. It
Uh,
but it is funny because it is the original one is still the best one. I think that's what I listened to today.
certified platinum in 1992.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
I mean, thinking about that, it's a pretty incredible statement considering, other than Brothers and Sisters, and none of their other recordings have even sniffed that level of success. And it is kind of interesting. And so this is my question. The band, obviously we know the story. Do Brothers and Sisters become the biggest rock and roll band in America? Have all this wild success, and then Greg and Dickie decide we want to do solo tours, and they do solo tours and essentially waste a year of the band's history. Animosity grows between the two. You know, Greg marries Cher, so on. They half-ass a record, and then they, in theory, half-ass a live album after they break up, which is not true because that's a really good record. What's interesting to me is that the trap that they didn't fall into, or the thing that they didn't do the first time around, which was live album as filler between studio records, they fell into the second time around. And so,
Interesting.
was there ever any conversation, and again, kind of come back to this word intentionality, active discussions within the band about doing another live record after, either before or after Win, Lose, or Draw? Or was it by that time so toxic and so far gone that there was nothing they felt like they could put down on tape that would live up to their standards?
Okay. That's a fantastic question. So you're talking, wipe the windows, check the oil, dollar, yes, 1976.
Do you know what that comes from?
Yeah,
What's
Chuck
that?
Berry, baby.
Okay, good.
Too much monkey business?
All right.
Terrible, terrible because it's obscure, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't, it's
You
just
know,
something I learned along the way, but it's,
I didn't figure it out until I heard Eddie Hinton's version of Too Much Monkey Business. And I was like, wait, that line. I know that one.
Dude, that Eddie Hinton record on Capricorn Records is like, one of these days I'm going to write about it since you're not going to write with me on that piece. I'm going to write about the damn thing. Okay.
Good.
Last Gasp, put out by Walden to try to save Capricorn. I highly doubt the band had anything to do with that record. Saying that, though, if you look at the tracks, those have all been recorded over time. So you got tracks from Warehouse 12/31/72. You got Watkins Glen. You got
Winterland,
the big one, the one that do you know that's the show from Cameron Crowe's entire story?
Oh, really? Yeah.
The pictures of Greg with the bottle of booze, those Neil Preston shots and all that. That was that same night. That's the night Greg stole his tapes.
Oh, yeah.
That is that night, 9/26/73, Winterland. So they recorded that whole show. They recorded, I think some of that includes some stuff in 75.
There's two shows, like November, the 75.
Confidence maybe being one of them.
Oakland and Bakersfield.
That's it. Yep. So you could see they were trying to collect material for a live record. Apparently, perhaps they were, so, I don't know. I was just looking at, I've been spending a lot of time in the Win, Lose, or Draw era just because, I've really mined the Fillmore East era. So now I'm trying to figure a few things out. I had a discussion with Lamar Williams Jr. last week or week before, about to put it out. Brought up his pops, who comes up in some of those articles some. And so I was reading this piece from Circus that came out. Like, a Circus reporter goes down there, does all the interviews. And Chuck's talking about how great everything is. And it's even better than sex is like when he calls it better than an orgasm when things get really good. And it's like, wow, what a just an odd. There's another one that the guy uses, and I'm like, that's a really odd conceit. But he's down there sometime in 75 when there are serious problems going on with the band. Greg has been absent much of this time because of Cher, which is well documented. J-Mo's pissy all the time because he was in a lot of pain. Dickie's being the cowboy, crazy man. Butch is not all that interested. He even said it, just interested in being a rock star. It was just a mess. But this article makes it, points out, makes it sound as if they're about to have this giant artistic breakthrough and then go on this great tour, this or that. It gives a lot of love to High Falls, a lot, in a good way. But, again, when you look at that record and you listen to it, you're like, you got two really good Allman Brothers songs on there in High Falls and Can't Lose What You Never Had. 3 Dickie songs that could have been on either Highway Call or either of the Great Southern records. Neither of them sound super Allman Brother-ish. Maybe 2. No, it's Sweet Mama, Louisiana Lou.
I mean, the third best song on the record's Nevertheless.
I totally agree.
So anyway, so they're
I went far afield because I was diving down that rabbit hole. But I think it was that was a cash grab. 100%.
So, Dane Peachman and SJ Archives put up some great stuff on YouTube, among others, but those are the two that I end up on. And they put up some cool stuff. SJ, I think, has put up some cool 73 stuff, but they put up some 75 and an early 76 show, I think, from Louisville. And it's interesting because it's funny that Chuck said that it's better than sex. Because you listen to those shows, and I'm sorry, that ain't happening. But it's not for a lack of effort. It's just that the thing, right? The magic is the spark is just gone. Like you can hear it it's just out there. But it's interesting to think about that period again, not being intentional about a live record, but then having this again 15-year gap essentially between studio record, 5-year gap roughly between studio records. And how, again, they never went back to the well, never went back to the live well until 93.
I see what you mean. Like even something they could have pulled off in the late 70s was go do a live record. Don't sit and do try to grind it out in the studio.
And they weren't a band. Again, I think we talked about the Room and like the Fillmore, is that the reason why the Fillmore's got so many live records recorded there was because, yes, they had a staff and a venue amenable to people doing that, but the Room sounded good.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were recording live albums in the, Stuckey's Junior College cafeteria in, Pasadena, Texas or something like that. Like you have more live records because the technology has evolved, but you have better venues and you have venues that are more willing to accept this sort of inconvenience in some ways. The Allmans were playing venues like that in 79. They were playing the Capitol, both Capitol theaters, one in Passaic and the one in Portchester. They were playing places that you could make a great record. So again, it's just sort of like you hit is a relative term, but you hit with Enlightened Rogues. And then I don't want to get into the last conversation we had because I don't want to do that again. But but it's just interesting. It's like you sit on your hands and then you have all this material and then you don't do it. And then you do an evening and it takes, after 2 studio records.
Yep. And what's funny about both of those evening withs, right? Those were not live tracks issued in lieu of studio tracks either. I think all of them were studio tracks, but they were successful in the obviously the audience was clamoring for that material because from 89 to, till the time they put out, Where It All Begins, and it really slowed down almost to a halt. But they were on the majors, they were cranking out some material. And, it does look like, as you're talking, the 74 one, that break, um, really hurt them.
Mhm.
All the momentum was gone when they
Yep.
got off the road as a band.
Mhm.
And, you know, did you see the Greg doc? Were you able to make it?
No, I did not see it.
Okay. There's a great scene. There's a lot of good scenes. So when you see it,
Mhm.
you'll remember this. But he's talking about bringing Queen of Hearts to the Allman Brothers,
Yeah.
and it goes unnamed. He's like, this, one person in the band. It goes unnamed, and well, I know the person in the band, and it was Butch. And Butch said it just doesn't sound like us, but I think he said more than that. It just doesn't sound like us. And basically, Greg says in the movie too, he goes, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." I'm taking my shit and going, and then
Mhm.
that's when he made the decision, to go make Laid Back, which was for
Yeah.
him a landmark.
Mhm.
But to take that band off the road in 1974 to go down from, I don't know, 60 shows down to 20 or something like that. I'll tell you the other one too, Jeff, that baffles me. 3 times in Europe over 45 years.
Mhm.
All of them super short runs. 74 was 2 shows. 80 was, I don't know, 4 or 5, half dozen or something. Same with 91.
Mhm.
What a missed opportunity for them.
Well, I mean, it falls into one of our favorite topics, which is, it's a band that has been good about tripping over its own feet, multiple times. And I mean, again, a lot of that is just it's not having the business acumen as their friends at the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. I yeah, and I mean, therein lies the rub, right? Walden, for whatever reason, to enmesh with the band to get that live album out,
Mhm.
going into Win, Lose, or Draw, then there's just nothing right working in 79 to 81, except for the record in Light
Mhm.
Grows and the tours.
Mhm.
Other than that, yeah, it's kind of a travesty there. Um, there was and this is true about every band, right? Like there was a certain element of this is what we are and what we are doing on the
Mhm.
way up
Mhm.
that just kind of goes away as you just look at it. Every band peaks at a certain point, and then they make the one album that has songs that you'll skip. And the only band that didn't do that, and I say that with a little bit of a caveat, is the Beatles. But even they had the White Album, and I don't like Revolution number 9. I don't like it. It makes me feel like a bad acid trip. It's awful. It's terrible. It's terrible. But you know what I mean? Like at a certain point, the band makes a record that doesn't have everything on it that you love. That's
Mhm.
just gonna happen.
Sure. Um, so 55 years, this record will obviously continue to live on. We had the Rolling Stone article about JMO, which was great. It was fun that they did it. Obviously, Derek's got his thing, Warren's got his thing, JMO's last man standing. He's not going to be around forever. So when we've been in this era of the last 5 years ish, longer than that, 10 plus years, maybe 20 years of Dead revival or Dead celebration, in variety of forms. Some of it great, some of it not, some of it overthought and overwrought, some of it, perfectly authentic and the thing that the people in the band would enjoy. Now you've got the Toy Factory project running around doing Marshall Tucker songs. Um, is there is there going to be another moment for this record and for this band?
That wow, maybe, I think one of the things that came to me, right, and is just bear with me for a second. Some of this is us talking, talking with
Mhm.
other people like us, right? Like you can't call anything the greatest, right? Because of all these qualifications of great according to what, according to how, according to the
Mhm.
greatest, you know, like okay, sure, um, in most of my life, all I did was want to hear the Allman Brothers play the long jams. Sometimes I
Mhm.
found the vocals slow down those jams in some ways, like that's an indictment on me, right, as a
Mhm.
listener. So here I am, 30 plus years of, well, the hell, the first time I bought it, I was like 12 or 13. It was so much, I couldn't even take it. I had to
Mhm.
put it down for a long time, and here we are all these years later, 40 years later, and I'm still hearing things, that come from it. So in terms of maybe like a mass movement, what I do see, and I suppose because I run in these circles a little bit too, there are a lot of young people, young musicians, young guitarists who are revere the record as, this model for greatness, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't think that ever goes away, right? And I think the other part of it is it's proven that it endures as something to listen to for not just musicians. And, I have this theory. Any band that jams like this or has this that makes it has to appeal to women as well. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of dudes hanging around and they're really never going to make it big. And we can go with our boys, Widespread Panic. The ladies love to boogie to Widespread Panic.
Yeah.
From the minute I saw that band live for the
Mhm.
first time, I've never seen, wow, so even the women like the Allman Brothers, not
Mhm.
quite as much, but you know what I mean? So I think as another moment here or there. I mean, I hope so. It'd be good for book sales and attention for all that I try to do. Uh, but I also think it's legit a great piece of art.
Mhm.
We talked about intentionality and a little bit with the set list, right? Like they knew exactly what they wanted to record. I'm still unsure. Did they really want Liz Reed and Whipping Post on there initially? Were they just going to record a single record without those two?
Mm.
You could still, I think, almost make it work
Mhm.
um, with Stormy Monday and maybe, uh, thank God they made it a double record. I
Sure. I
guess
mean, it narrows it I mean, honestly, it narrows the band that is interested in the record if they chose that. Like,
that's a
again,
very good
I
point.
mean, you could have made a great live blues rock record with minus Liz Reed and minus Whipping Post.
Yeah, like a great Johnny Winter and
Yeah.
live record.
Yeah,
Yes, the one
for
that was
sure.
made there as well at Fillmore East.
I mean,
Want more stories like this? Subscribe at longlivetheabb.com. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
it would have been perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. It probably would have gone gold eventually. But would it be a lasting totem to this band? No, of course not. Would it have been as influential? No. But I think always what always works about the record is sort of like the two halves of Dwayne's brain, the two thoughts about where this band was going to go. Which I always love that quote that you put in your book. It's like the blues thing, man. The kids dig the blues thing. Which every time I read that, it's like, really? They do? Um, and then this expansive vision for but he and Dickie were doing in terms of like they're just playing jazz. It's all it is. And so it's like that's why I think as a as a lasting document or as a lasting totem of Dwayne's memory. Like that's it. That's the two sides of what he viewed for that band, which is, I think what you said earlier is so great. It's like, yeah, they can come out and they can just kick your ass for 20 minutes playing those first 4 songs or 5 songs eventually. Um, States Road Trouble No More, Don't Keep Me Wondering, Done Somebody Rock on the Way Out. Bang, 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 bang. And then it's like, okay,
Now we're gonna hit Stormy
push
Monday.
that aside. Yeah, then we'll do Stormy Monday. We'll keep it down, but everybody's going to get to see what we're going to do, and then we're going to go this direction. Um, it's not rare when you see that. Usually with a band, especially in a live record, which is what we have in our heads is going to be the true document of what a band is really like, right? Except for the Beatles, of course, and the Stones in some ways. But in some bands thrive in studios and some bands don't. I mean, you talked about this, you documented all of this. But it is rare when you can see like the vision. Like most bands just have vision. This band had many.
Yeah.
And you do sort of see it, and then you could say like, oh, they had many and then they coalesced into one. But no, that's so what again, so if you had to, well, you can comment on that rambling, but
Keep going.
It is sort of like you get one LP from At Fillmore East. Jerry Wexler pounds his fist and he says, "No, Phil Walden, I don't want the publishing on Whipping Post and Liz Reed. I one record for $5.98. What makes up your 40 minutes?" So
Me?
that's part 2, yeah, for you. But we
Okay,
can talk about the other.
let's start with part 1.
Yeah.
Let me read the quote because I put this up today. This is Tom Nolan, who wrote the first Allman Brothers biography. "We hear at last a great band in full possession of its considerable intelligence and stamina, whether because of the rapport generated by a live setting or simply because some necessary amount of time had elapsed. The ABB at last achieved their appropriate mixture of taste and power. With grace, they move repeatedly from subdued, engrossing, intricate levels to brilliant and fiery cascades of notes and back again. Guitar solos of perfect logic blend seamlessly into arranged sections, the music liquid, pure, flowing, offering constant diversion to the attentive senses." I mean, that's pretty much exactly what you were saying about
Guitar
what the
playing
music was.
is incendiary. Is it incendiary?
Hey, I'm incendiary too. um,
Uh,
but
yeah,
but
that's a
the
lot of
but I'm gonna say I gotta say the full possession of its considerable intelligence and stamina. I think that's exactly what that's
yeah.
I was preparation for talking with you, doing my homework a little bit. I'm still baffled sometimes by why Idlewild South didn't, really have a big breakout. I know it sold, they got in the 30s. It sold a lot better. It's a terrible album cover. Number one.
I want to go. So another thing I thought about today, talking about the future anger and resentment of Forrest Richard Betts. It should have started when the guy on the album cover that is supposed to be him looks nothing like him. I've looked at that for 30 years. I'm like, that ain't him.
It's a studio shot and they all had those black cloaks on to blend into the background. It was like one of those funky things. I've seen the actual picture. So, but I was like, why in the hell did they not release Midnight Rider as a single? I know this might be the 4th time we've talked about this. Maybe we'll talk about it in Memphis. That's a great song.
Yeah.
And, if you want to know how great it is a song, Michelob, I think, did it as a commercial in the 90s. Went right about the time I was getting into the Allman Brothers, and all my friends went ape shit. "Oh, that's the Allman Brothers," they said. "Midnight Rider." Okay. So the first point I wanted to read that. The second one, okay, the album was the way I figured it. Statesboro, Done Somebody Wrong, Stormy Monday on the first side. I think that would be about 4, 8, 16 minutes. So you could actually maybe leave the harmonica solo in there, but probably not. Second side would be Hotlanta. And then the other side would be You Don't Love Me.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Now I think there was some intention that they would shrink You Don't Love Me down to a 12-minute cut or something. I think that would have been one of those, which would have meant you would have had maybe Stormy Monday on there too. I don't know. I mean, it's the only time they played Stormy Monday that weekend was the Saturday Late Show. And they nailed it.
They really did. Yeah, they really did.
They nailed it.
Yeah, and again, had they not played it the way that they did, I mean, it was a staple. It showed up in 72, constantly.
It became their, the one constant slow blues. Up to that
Mhm.
point, they were still doing some outskirts of town, but it became Stormy Monday became their slow blues. But then, they had, I don't know, they played Jelly Jelly live, which is just
Mhm.
outskirts of town.
Yeah.
They had Need Your Love So Bad as a slow blues in 79. And then they had like Gambler's Roll, Desdemona, those
Mhm.
things in the later times, but it became the one. And
Yeah.
their version, everybody's recorded it, and their version is the standard.
Mhm. Well, this isn't really, well, I'm going to save this question for later. It's not a Fillmore East question. But it is interesting because I think the set list or the track list for Fillmore East dictates what happens after Dwayne passes too. Because I do think there is that pressure to, and I, said this in response to your chat with John Linsky. It was like Dickie was one of the best guitar players in the world. I said one of the best guitar players in the world because he had to be. Like, he was forced into that role and he stepped up. And, I'll talk about 72 till I'm blue in the face. But again, had they not done those long versions of Liz Reed, You Don't Love Me, and Whipping Post, I mean, all that continues in 72 with one guitar player.
Yep.
It's crazy. And, with Dickie carrying all the weight, all the solo weight, all the stand out with your guts out at the center stage, singing or playing all that stuff. Like it's interesting that. So that's why that song selection I think is so critical for that next year of the band knowing what happens, and then obviously some of those songs stay in the formats in the length and the format stays, and when Chuck joins the band too.
That so that group, that set the 72 tour, the great 5-man band. They played the Fillmore East album plus some stuff on, I guess the only thing they would play off Eat a Piece, they were playing La Brea, Ain't Wasting Time No More. I don't even think they were really playing Melissa, but they were not doing any of the Dwayne. They did.
6972.
I don't know that
That's
I've ever
Melissa.
heard that.
Yeah.
Well, dang, I've just been stumped. I like that. I like that.
But
So anyway,
again, but that gets back to and they played Trouble No More. But that's one of the things that I was going to bring up, but said I wanted to bring up, but now that you brought it up, is with terms of You to Peach, is how poor of a job they did promoting that record in terms of playing the songs on the record that the people actually wanted to hear.
like the Dwayne songs at the end.
Sure. I mean,
But I mean, that
but they played the live stuff. They played One Way Out. They played Mountain Jam occasionally. They played Trouble No More. They played
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I think
take
I feel like it's really hard for me to critique anything there. From a musical standpoint, right? I will say in doing some research back a while back, there were multiple times that year they took breaks. Believe it, there were breaks that they and Walden's putting out press releases like they're not breaking up, but there were several times during that 72 tour, at least once or at least twice, where they took a break. They had to
Yeah, they
cancel
didn't
a few
play
shows.
the tour. They played a number of shows, but it was very
Hit,
hit or
it
miss,
was a little bit sporadic. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was and that was what was going on.
Yeah.
The fault you could say, right, is someone should step in and say, like, you guys need to go, but I mean, everybody's in uncharted waters at that point,
Yeah.
uncharted waters at that point. Working is the only thing that gave them any relief from any of the pain. No, I mean, look, Eat a Peach hit number 4, so they went from number 38. They went from nowhere with the first record to number 38 to number 13 to number 4, and then number 1 with Brothers and Sisters. The last record they make that has 0 skips on it for me. You know, it's like with the Stones, they have that period from, I guess it's Beggar's Banquet to Exile.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to Goat's Head Soup, and that's where the skips start for me.
I like that record, but
so I got one for you.
Okay.
Live Dead.
Uh-huh.
How does it measure up to Fillmore East as by whatever terms you want to? You know both these bands pretty well.
It's a different. I've always. It's going to sound trite. I've always consumed it differently. In that my approach to it has always been different. In that, I think it. I will admit, I think I had Live Dead first because I had Skeletons from the Closet. I had 69 to 79 and Skeletons from the Closet probably like real close to each other. But then I remember listening to the Dead and be like, this is dumb. Like, what are they short songs? You guys don't do this. And then it was like, bought Live Dead. And I was like, oh, this is what it's all about. It's it's an accurate representation of what the band was doing at the time. Obviously, it's more pieced together from multiple shows and different venues over the course of a month and a week, I guess. But over the years, that has always been like a record. The Dark Star Saint Stephen, the 11 is the one I will always go back. That sequence on that record is what I will always go back to. And it's pieced together, but to me, it's still perfect of how it was put together. I think the part that to me that's always super interesting about that is, you know, they sort of included the Juicy Carter part on their live album. They included 7 minutes of feedback. And the Allmans told Juicy to not come back on night 3. And I know that was part of like the gig and part of their thing, you know, and it's a bridge between, you know, Death Don't and We Bid You Good Night. But to me, for a landmark live album like that, to have something that's eminently skippable and also eminently not consumable by the majority of the public is not, it becomes irrelevant. And like, I think that's the part of that record that I will always criticize is like the first 4 songs, you know, I've said the first 3, but up to Love Light is perfect. Like it's perfect. You know, we can argue about which Dark Star is better, but it's still 227-69. It is still the one. It's because it's that opening note and Jerry's guitar swell and everything. It's perfect. But like, there's fluff. Like y'all put fluff on this big live record that you had to do because you owed your record company so much money.
The situation going into this
and
is
so that's
very similar.
Yeah, and so it is very. That's the part that I think where I always diverge, and it's also just the excess of, you know, the art design and the packaging versus what the Allmans did. But to me, it is that like you've got this great thing, but there is a relevance on it. Whereas with the Allmans, there's like no, there's just not.
There is, yeah, the zero filler,
and that's why it's always. They're on the same. They're all on the. They're both on Mount Rushmore, but one's more prominent than the other.
Yeah. You know, I don't. My favorite Live Dead record is Skullfuck, which is heavily overdubbed.
Yeah.
You know, and that was for me. Same. We've talked about this before. Skeletons from the Closet. I probably got from Columbia House or something, some shit, and then I got the double CD, the black Long Strange Trip, and it had a 2-minute Dark Star or some shit. It's like, this Dark Star, what, you know? you were who hipped me to that version, because I was like, hey man, what version of Dark Star, you know, should I listen to? You're like, I always this. I put this up this past week in a podcast episode in show notes. A couple of my favorite paragraphs in the entire book. So I did that at your recommendation. I put on Dark Star, listened to it. And it just like all of a sudden I was like, could hear Lesh, how Barry Oakley learned from Phil Lesh. Even though I don't think Barry had any access to that record, I don't think it came out by the time he was developing his sound, but it was the way that he was, I think the book says, simultaneously grounding the band and pushing the band forward at the same time.
Mhm.
And that's where those two bands, like really converge for me, is right there at that level, that bass player
Mhm.
that just never holds back ever. And I think, you nailed it, right? They were in the same situation with Warner Brothers that the Allman Brothers Band were with, not really as much Capricorn, but
Yeah.
Capricorn was with Jerry Wexler and Atlantic. They were up to their ass in debt and had to get a record that would sell well. And I think that it's telling that both bands said, we're going out on our shield. Like this is how we are. And, arguably, right, it's all ice cream, and vanilla
Yeah.
vanilla ice cream is some pretty good stuff too, but I really prefer some other flavors. And, if you prefer the Dead's flavor of ice cream, it's a comparable record, I suppose, to, hearing them in that era at their, at that artistic peak. And that's where you get to like what makes a great record, period. That's why I would call it a great artistic achievement, because with the Allman Brothers, I know there's 200 and something pages on it, what they were trying to do when they went in to do this record. Like I've deconstructed the shit out of it. And from what did they want to do? And did they accomplish it? And it's not just 500,000 sales, the gold record, but it is the 500,000 sales of the gold record. It's, I think, to bring it back home, it's 55 years worth of an album that has never left the public consciousness, that continues to influence.
I mean, that's one of the things that, especially on the Dead side, like Live Dead is not the thing. It's the two studio records that come after that are the two that people hold up more than anything. I mean, to me, that just seems, and then obviously the live show
72.
legacy, and then 72, and then obviously the amazing live stuff that they do in the years following that too. That's the legacy of that band. It's not the one thing.
Right.
The Almonds, I mean, I argue it is the one thing.
No, listen, I don't disagree. I have heard some brilliant moments, from that era. I wish, at one point, if Dwayne farted on a tape, I had it, I mean, and I know what also has been out there. I know how, the peaks that they could do, but, I listened to Fillmore East with a discerning ear as much as I could. And I have one complaint. It's we talk about it every time. It's the fade outs. It's just because Get Your Yayas Out made me feel like I was at a live Rolling Stones concert. So does Chief's Tricks at Budokan. So do most live records. Like the Allman Brothers, they faded out tracks on the two in the 90s too. Like it's like, huh? That's I get it. I get it on Fillmore East. I disagree with it, but I get it. You're saying this is our album. And it took me, you've lived that journey with me, years to accept that fact, right? That I have to receive an album as intended by the artist. And I'm, they were pretty clear what their intentions were.
I mean, but also how cool is it that your record fades out, Whipping Post into Mountain Jam, and then the next record they put Mountain Jam.
No, that one's okay.
Like, that's for me. But that's pretty badass, though.
That's boss as shit. That's boss as shit. Definitely that one for sure.
Yeah.
But like it would be super cool. But then again, you'd lose, like I love the intros. I love the interludes. Especially as you're trying to write a book and being like, okay, what is it that really makes this record special? Well, what they left in was super cool.
Yeah.
It feels like I was revisiting, because I wrote Substack this week. I did a 4-part series and I was revisiting it again, my own take on it. Right. And they just sound like they're having a good time.
Mhm.
while we're doing that blues thing, like, um, you're right. I mean, it does endure. And for the Dead, Live Dead's important to me to consider Fillmore East because of how it was made, why it was made, and the circumstances in which it was made. I think they're very corollary.
Mhm.
But you are right. That is not the definitive live Grateful Dead record. If there is one, is it Europe 72?
I mean, no. I mean, I don't think anything that they put out's definitive in terms of their live experience.
All right, but how many live albums are we talking about?
Well, let's
Albums.
see. Album official releases, prior to Dick's Picks and stuff. So it would
Yeah,
have been Live Dead, yeah, Skullfuck, like you said. Um,
Europe
Steal Your
72
Europe 72, Steal Your Face, and then the Reckoning, and then
without a net.
Without a Net, I guess.
So it's Europe 72.
Of those, yeah, because it has the Morning Dew on it. I think
The whole
that's
album's pretty damn great.
good.
Also had some work done in the post-production room.
Mm,
Let me
yeah.
ask you a question. I had somebody, you can answer this for me. I had somebody on, the pedant on one of the socials try to tell me it's not At Fillmore East isn't a real live album because there was the patch. I'm like, what?
No.
Like you don't know what a live album is? What are you talking? Every note on that record is recorded live. Not a single note has been
Yeah.
fixed. I can't even hear the connection in the.
If they didn't tell you did it, they did it. You would never know they did
And by the way,
it.
I have no problem with that either. Getting the best take and making it sound good. I'm doing this with my own shit right now. Like if I flub a note, I don't want to keep that in there forever. Damn, man.
It
What do we expect of these people?
yes, nobody and
You're high as a kite. You're playing in front of 2,000 people who are amped up, also high as a kite, recording your most important thing ever. What do you expect from these guys?
it it's an interesting take. I don't agree with that take. I think there's a difference between that and overdubs. There's a difference between that and adding crowd noise and making something more I think that's what, and you talk about Get Your Yayas Out. That's actually one of the things. I'll never say that that's a great live record because of the performance, but you're right. It just sounds like I went and saw a 45-minute Rolling Stones show at Madison Square Garden, and it was fun as hell.
I
And like,
couldn't tell the difference between that and Muddy at Newport, for example.
yeah, like I just it sounds how it's supposed to, and I think that's one of its that's that record's staying power. But no, it's if there's a difference between a live album and a live recording. If you want we have lots of live recordings in our arsenal that we can have in our collections, have on YouTube, whatever, and then a live album, which is specially created for the market. And every band that's done one has taken a different tack to it, but nobody has given you a live show untouched, unmassaged, because the nature of live music is it's not perfect.
That's I was sitting there going, the way the argument was going, it wasn't really an argument because I don't listen very long and I just block because I don't care. I don't need this nonsense in my life, man. Like it's I'm not here to explain to you that there were no edits done. Like there was no like the record is exactly as it was recorded.
Yeah.
Yes, they patched two verses together. Turned out to be a really good choice. Yes, they took out a harmonica solo. They did that for time. I'm convinced it had to have been for time.
Mhm.
Um, but
I mean,
that's
it's not like Tom Doucette isn't on the record.
yeah.
Enough
That's
on that
we've
point.
we've had that discussion too. That's a like to me that's exactly it. And I think that is one of the things that sets it apart from just about anything else. I can't think of another document like that.
Mhm.
Um, And I think when you add the stakes,
Mm-hmm.
that to me, which again, I wrote a whole book about that, says, what did they want to do? How do we know if they achieved it?
I mean, it also goes back, like thinking about contemporary live records, thinking about Fish's first, live one, and then Panic, Light Fuse Get Away. Those are culled from tours. Those are not culled from single shows. And like, again, we know what shows they come from. But when you listen to those records, they are produced and massaged to sound like a show. Uh, Light Fuse Get Away is like, slow porch disco, like at the beginning of the first record, the first CD, first LP, whatever. But like all that stuff that's come, it's like it's flows together and it's edited together to sound like it's one continuous set. They tried to recreate
Yeah.
the experience of one of their shows with 2 CDs, and they've been having a mini drums on the second disc. Like it's still a live record.
Yes.
It just is produced.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's in terms of certainly there are jazz records that that this gentleman, I would imagine, would argue are more pure because they don't have overdubs, because they're not spliced and so on. But that's it. It's all it's up to the band and it's up to the producer at any given point in time. There's no rubric for it. It's up
And
to
look,
people
there's
like us to
nothing,
say what we like and what we don't.
there's nothing added to it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no maracas, there's no background singers, there's no additional, there's no vocal fixes or anything. And I mean, you listen to Greg on that thing; he doesn't miss a note, man. Like the power of that 22-year-old, 22, I think at that point, year-old guy.
Yeah.
And I've said multiple times before the tightrope that the soloists are walking at all times. That's why when you listen and you get the benefit of hearing all 4 shows, would really love to have heard that Thursday show with the 3 horns in it. Because all we have are the two shows or 3. I can't remember. It's 2 or 3 with the 1 horn. And that's bad enough. But I would like to also
you guys are too good. You're too good to be on this record. We just need this guy.
And then, but you could hear like the whipping post that they did get. They could have patched the other 2 versions and taken anything from, they could have created a great version of that too, from what they already had. They just happened to nail the damn thing in one fucking take.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, what's the count there? And what's our
game's over. 4-1 Belgium. Rough. Rough.
I'm just going to say on the record. No, I'm not. I'm not going to say anything on the record right now. That sucks. I will continue to follow it. I have had
of course.
We have had a great time watching football, watching the World Cup this year, and have had a good time. So, but 4-1 is
it's a brutal result. Brutal result for the American side.
They were beating us up in the first half pretty bad. We were not keeping up with those guys there.
Yeah.
What else you got? Anything else fun?
I don't think so. I mean, go see Widespread Panic sometime with Nick Johnson.
I need to go see that video, I guess, that you said with Dwayne.
It's probably on the YouTubes. It's on Nugs. If you want to go listen to it on Nugs.
I'm sure it is. My next big trip is I'm going to Roots Rock Revival, Butchie's camp.
Yeah.
And then I got a gig at Bethel Woods, man, all weekend.
Oh yeah.
Neil Hitch, our old buddy. I'm going to be staying. You remember the dude in the Woodstock movie who complained because his cows weren't giving milk anymore?
Yeah.
Neil lives in that guy's house now. And I'm going to be staying in this place that they own right across the street. So I'll basically be on holy ground for a weekend.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the weekend at TTB, we'll be there.
Okay.
So I'll see also Garcia Symphonic Celebration and Outlaw Music Festival. So,
that's a lot.
Yeah, big deal. That's the end of August. We've had all of our vacation time up to that. Hey man, listen, I appreciate you coming in and helping me have a fun discussion. It's always a blast. This will go out to the YouTubes and whatnot. clearly Monday night is not the night for my live audience, but I know it's going to hit wide on the webs because that's what it does. So
Yeah,
appreciate you.
I mean, I wouldn't take it personally. I know I'm not a big.
I don't. It doesn't. None of it bothers me, bro. I would sit here and talk to you about this anyway. Just the fact that there's some people, and some of these are my paid members, so I get to serve the peoples, which I'm very happy about. Very happy about. By the way, this shirt is available for sale at merch.longlivetheabb.com. I moved the Allman Brothers to the top of the bill. This is an original Fillmore East ad, but I moved the Allman Brothers to the top of the bill, which is where they were, the spot that they earned. So at Fillmore East, Jeff, 55. You got any final thoughts on 55th anniversary?
Pay close attention to how Dickie Betts plays guitar in this record.
I like that. I'm gonna leave it with that one. Leave it with that one. Make sure and listen, by the way, for 5 people calling out for one post.
Yeah.
And listen to the end of Mountain Jam. They're screaming for more. And listen, Dreams. There's at least 2 that scream out for Dreams. Which, please. Yes. Yes.
Bob's time machine. He could do so many things, but instead he's going to go back to 31371 and just horn his way into the dressing room. Like, hey guys, hey, have you guys thought about playing Dreams?
Let's put Dreams on the set list. Just say it. No, 62671, which they did play and never got recorded. So I would just go back and hear that. That's my time machine show.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Jeffrey, thank you, man. Take care.
Sure. See ya.